Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Hari Om Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramakrishnaya. Indeed, I am very happy to meet all the devotees of Muscat who have joined today, and also the devotees and friends from other places of the world. Today, the Muscat Ramakrishna Samiti requested me to speak on Ma Sarada and Ma Saraswati. You all know that recently in this month, we had celebrated the Vasanta Panchami, Panchami Tithi, and which designs the starting of Vasanta Ritu in India. This Ritu is being celebrated as Saraswati Puja in the eastern parts of our country. Though Saraswati Puja is celebrated in other places on different tithis. For instance, in southern India, you will find during Navaratri, the last day of the Navaratri, that is called Vijayadashami, that is designated as Saraswati Puja. So there are many Puranic traditions are there according to the place and according to the rishis who have pravartakas, who have the full authority to begin a custom, a tradition. They are called rishis. So at different places, the different rishis brought out a different tithis for Saraswati Puja. I feel personally that there cannot be any single date that can be fixed for worshipping Mother Saraswati. Because Saraswati stands for knowledge, wisdom, learning, essentially for learning. And learning is considered as a very important point in our spiritual life. That's why it was called Vidya. This learning is applicable on any day. On any day it can be started. That's why at different parts of India you find, say for Ram Navami, all over India the same tithi is there because Ram is said to have been born on that day. Likewise, Krishnashtami. But then for Saraswati Puja, it's not like that. So at different places, the different rishis, as I told you, have pravartas, that is, they have started that, begun that tradition. So the tradition is being followed. This Saraswati stands for, as I said, learning. What type of learning? Learning can be anything. Even I am learning the Zoom, nowadays, and then Google Meet, etc. We have to learn. If I have to work without any assistance, all alone, then I must learn first that work. So likewise, for learning can be of anything. So if you take up each subject of the learning, say one by one, and accumulate in one place, say list, in a list form, then our ancient rishis, they found out this learning, that is the Vidyas, can be divided into two categories. What are the two categories? One is Paravidya, another is Aparavidya. So they classified. They said, yes, learning is a continuous process and the learning can be of anything, okay, but then this separate two categories they made. And they put one particular type of learning into Paravidya category and put another type of learning into Aparavidya category. Now, which type of learning will go in which category? So you have to now define. See, when you make categories, every category must be defined. Then only you can classify. So now they started defining these two vidyas. One is called Paravidya, another is called Aparavidya. This Paravidya, the very term itself says that is something beyond. Para means something beyond. So beyond something, and beyond whatever learning that we can have in this world for our mundane life, beyond that, some learning is there. What is that learning? We shall come to later, but some learning is there. So that type of learning, why can't we categorize as Paravidya? So once that Paravidya has been classified as Savidya Ya Vimuktaye, that is the definition given for Paravidya. So what is the definition of Paravidya? Savidya, that learning, Ya Vimuktaye, by which one is liberated. The learning that gives liberation. Should I reduce my sound? Is it audible now?
Yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah,
that's right. So that vidya that liberates, sa vidya ya vimuktaye. This is in Vishnu Puranas. Their great sage Vyasa has defined this. So now, once you define the Paravidya, now you put that parameter to all the other vidyas. For instance, carpentry. For instance, dance. For instance, singing. Likewise, how many vidyas can be done? So in Tamil, there is a beautiful shloka on Mother Saraswati. You know, when we say shloka, we think shloka can be only in Sanskrit. It's not so. Every language has got shlokas. Mantras are there. Even I have heard Bengali mantras from very senior Swami. He told me, you see, every language has got that capacity to make shlokas, verses, mantras, etc. So one shloka in Tamil says, Aya Kalaigal Aruvathu Nanginayum. In short, I'm telling you, there are 64 arts learning are there. 64 categories or 64 kinds. So like dance, music, like these are one kind of learning. Like that, there are 64 kinds are there. And who is the Adhishtatri Devata for these 64 kinds of knowledge or the learning? That is Mother Saraswati. From Saraswati, all the 64 types of learnings have come. The Paravidya also has come from her. Now, this learning that Saraswati gives to us is something very important for our life. Why? Because this Aparavidya, that knowledge, that type of learning which does not give the Vimuktaye, the liberation, all the other types of learnings are put under, categorized under Aparavidya. Now this, a broad, I should say, a framework has been made by our rishis in those days, very long back. From the Upanishad time, we find such types of differentiation. Now, this, whether you learn Aparavidya, whether you learn Paravidya, the grace of Mother Saraswati is required. Even I tell you, one of the Aparavidyas is oration. You all know that oratory skills are not for everybody. Anybody cannot become an orator. We can give speeches. Like you say, I am giving speech, but I am not an orator. There are specific people who have the tendency or who can develop the tendency into an art. They are called orators. So if you can immediately remember, Swami Vivekananda was an accomplished orator because his speeches were so wonderful. And words used to come flow like a river stream. What he did while he was in India, before going to America, I'm telling, he has been wandering for about 2 years. And we find from the history of Swami Vivekananda's life that he had never addressed a meeting of sorts where he could speak to the devotees or the people who are assembled there and give an oration. We don't find in that. He has spoken in small meetings like 20 people, 30 people in Hyderabad. He has spoken in Kerala, he has spoken to 20 people. Like that, we find that small groups were there. But on 11th September, when he stood at the Parliament of Religions in USA, Chicago, what he saw 2,000 people were seated in that hall and another 2,000 people are outside waiting. And there, several dignitaries have come from different religions and they were all seated on the dais. One by one is getting up and he introduced to the audience by the moderator and then he speaks. Seeing that, Vivekananda thought, what has come to this? I never spoke like this to a big audience anytime, and I don't think I am an orator. Term comes, he says, no, let another man speak. Like that, he was putting off the time of his speech. But then finally he has to speak because he has been part of that meeting. So finally, when he stood there, what is his reaction? He himself says, I was shivering as if it were, my legs were shivering as it were, that I do not know what I am going to say. At this moment, I closed my eyes before the audience and thought of Mother Saraswati. How beautifully he says, you see. It is his own words. He thought of Mother Saraswati. And then he opened his eyes and opened his lips and uttered 5 words. Sisters and brothers of America. Only 5 words. For the next 2.5 minutes, people were clapping. And then he spoke on that day, the very first day of the opening day of the Parliament of Religions, only 5 minutes. If you read that speech, more than 5 minutes, you cannot read. Such a small speech. And that made him a historical person. In next day, every newspaper carried his picture in the front page. So it became history. Later he says to his disciples, I thought of Mother Saraswati, her grace was there. Now this grace of Mother Saraswati is very essential. So when children come and I address them and they tell that I cannot concentrate, I cannot study well, etc., I give this simple instruction that before you open your books, close your eyes and do this simple 2-line mantra. Saraswati, Namastubhyam. I bow down to you. Varade, you are the boon giver. Kamarupini, you are the personality of all my desires. So you pray that. And then I am doing the Vidya. Vidyarambam Karishyami. I am now starting Vidyarambam, starting of my studies. Siddhir Bhavatu me sada. All the time, let me have success. A simple mantra. You chant this, and then what to do? and then think of Mother Saraswati and bow down to her and start your reading. So when you start studying with the idea of Mother Saraswati, she resides in the brain, that is in the buddhi. We call it buddhi in Sanskrit. This buddhi has got different connotations. So it can be brain, it can be mind, it can be thinking, etc., etc. But the word buddhi is very well known to all the Indians because we know we are using this. Buddhi, she comes and resides in the buddhi. That's why a very good student who has studied all along well suddenly gets so poor marks in the examination. What is the reason? The reason is he could not remember at the time of examination. You see, I might have studied well. Okay. I have by hearted the whole portions. Okay. But when I'm sitting there in the exam hall with my pen and paper, at that time, I must remember those things. The remembrance is what given by Mother Saraswati's grace. If the remembrance is not there, how are you going to write the examination? Though you have studied well. So this memory. So the memory is very important because that memory is intimately connected with a type of guna that we all have. As you know that when the world was created by the Divine Mother, at that time, it is said that she brought 3 gunas into manifestation. Everyone, each of the being that is created in this universe have got that wonderful 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. This capacity to remember, that comes from sattva guna, not from tamoguna, not from rajoguna. So the capacity to remember by the grace of Saraswati, we say, is directly connected to sattva guna. So sattva guna is picturized or idolized for our purposes as Mother Saraswati. How this thought, this Mother Saraswati concept came into our Rishi's mind? See, they could bring out these different things from the life. And Mother Saraswati's concept came. So the great Rishi in Markandeya Purana, a portion is there. That portion is called Sri Chandi. In Bengali, it is Chandi. It is called very famous in the eastern part of country. And in southern side, it is very famous as Durga Mahatmyam. So this Durga Mahatmyam Chandi, it is divided into 3 parts. The first chapter itself is 1 division. And second to 5th chapter is 1 division. No, second, third, fourth. Third, 3 chapters. Second, third, fourth. These 3 chapters is the second division. And from 5th to 13, that is 9 chapters, is 1 division. So what are these 3 divisions meant for? You'll be surprised. So according to Mother Durga's statement in the Chandi itself, that I am Trigunamayi, I am the personification of the 3 gunas, she says. So the first division is dedicated to Mother Mahakali, which is signified as tamas representation. And then the second portion in Chandi is dedicated to Mahalakshmi, which is dedicated to Mahalakshmi, means as a personification of Rajas Guna. And then you come to the third division from 6th chapter to 13th chapter. That third division is dedicated to Mahasaraswati. So when you start this chanting of the Sri Chandi, you must first chant after the Om and the Bija mantra. Then you have to say Om, Aim, Hrim, Klim, Chamundaya Viche is a mantra for Durga. We use that. That Aim, Hrim, Klim, from where they have come? Each division of this book is starting with this Bija mantra. So the first division starts with Aim, second division with Hrim, third division with Klim. And the first division, as I told you, is Mahakali, second division Mahalakshmi, third division Mahasaraswati. So this Saraswati is an aspect, as Kali is an aspect, as Lakshmi is an aspect. Likewise, Saraswati also is an aspect of whom? Of the Mahamaya. So this Mahamaya is something transcendent. That's why the word Maha is used here. Should not be confused with the Puranic Lakshmi Saraswati Parvati or Kali. No. Here, everywhere you use Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati, Mahakali of Mahamaya. So this Maha has been very rightly used. Several times it has been used in Chandi to indicate to us that don't think a personified form of a deity. It is something at transcendent level, a power that is organizing this universe that is being indicated there. So the great sages say this Mahamaya, it is can take the entire Jagat as under a sammohan level. That means she can make, if she am using that Mahamaya because it is considered as mother. That power is worshipped by the tantric followers. The tantric followers have made, their supreme deity is not Shiva. It is not Vishnu. It is not any other gods among the several gods and goddesses that we have. Whom they consider as the supreme, as the Devi only as the supreme, as a mother. So this mother, when mother is considered as supreme, so in what language they speak, that you must understand. If you are a Vishnu Bhakta, perhaps you may not like that. And there were quarrels like that earlier. If you are a Krishna Bhakta, you may not like that. But then we don't go into that type of baseless discussions. What we want to say is, whatever path you follow, that supreme power, which can be designated without any type of differentiation, is called Parabrahman. That is what the Upanishad speak of. It is completely non-controversial. So the supreme power is called Parabrahman. Now you see this Parabrahman has got inherent power. That Parabrahman has got inherent power. That power is called Shakti. Now this Shakti is taken as equivalent to Parabrahman because it is non-different from Brahman. This view, who said? In ancient Puranas, particularly Devi Bhagavatam, we find this idea. But then to us, in the recent age, Sri Ramakrishna came and he confirmed this idea that Parabrahman Shakti is non-different from its where it is staying with, that is Brahman. So now this Shakti, you see, these are all in a feminine gender they have used. Itself, it says it is a mother. So that supreme power is thought of, conceived of in our mind as a mother. Why mother? Why can't you think of as father? Well, other religions have got their own reasons to think of the supreme being as father. Or you can put it as a brother, big brother as we call. So why we think of mother? Because specific reason is there. Because this entire, a simple mother, ordinary mother we take in our life. How do you see her? I am a mother's child. She has begotten me. So she has produced me. And she has sustained me. And finally, as a divine mother, she withdraws this universe into her. So I see these two actions. First two actions, that giving birth and sustenance, this is done by a mother. Though she doesn't destroy me. But then the dissolution of the entire universe, that also has to be taken into account when you think of a big cosmic power. A mother, my own mother, is a small item only in the cosmos. But think of the cosmic power. That cosmic power has got more power than this mother. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says very funnily that Ishwar can take avatar, but avatar cannot perform the Ishwara's functions. What is the functions of Ishwara? He can create, he can sustain, he can dissolve. But an avatar cannot do that. That is meant only for Ishwara. So in that way, our own mother cannot do all the three functions. But the cosmic mother is doing this. So she can. Balad akrishya mohaya mahamaya prayachati. That is what Chandi says. This mahamaya has got so much power. Balad akrishya, with great tenacity, she can put all of us into moha. That means into ignorance. Now this ignorance is a terrible thing. And when she puts us into ignorance, there must be some method for redemption also. There only our rishis have found out the connection to Saraswati. Kali can give you mukti straight away. Lakshmi can give you mukti if you want. But you don't go and ask mukti from these deities. But what you ask for Saraswati, that knowledge, sa vidya ya vimuktaye. That knowledge that liberates. That knowledge, if you want, you must go to Saraswati. So Saraswati has to be worshipped. That's how the concept of Saraswati has got a deeper meaning, considering the entire cosmic creation, sustenance, and dissolution. That's why the three divisions have been made. The whole Chandi book is divided into three parts because of that. Now you see, this liberation, to get liberation, I must completely be away from all the attachment that I'm having. So who is going to give me that specific knowledge? Sa vidya. That's what Purana says. Sa vidya, that knowledge. That knowledge, who is going to give me? It is only Saraswati can give. So the worship of Saraswati became very popular. And those who are aspiring for spiritual knowledge, Paravidya, they tended to worship Mother Saraswati. But you are worshipping the same Supreme Brahman, no problem. But then you have changed from place to place and you have come to a particular conceptualized deity for our own convenience. Our rishis have made to us and given to us. Don't think that Saraswati as a concept is only in imagination. No, it is not imagination. Neither Lakshmi is an imagination, nor Parvati is an imagination. They are all real. Because we are in this world which has been bound by this Mahamaya. As long as you are within the jurisdiction of Mahamaya, you must accept the power of Shakti. This is what instruction given by Sri Ramakrishna to his own Guru, Totapuri, who did not want to accept the power, the jurisdictional power of Mahamaya. He said, well, you are under her jurisdiction. That means you must accept. So finally, he learns a new thing in his spiritual life. And then he leaves Dakshineshwar after that. So you find this jurisdictional thing is something we all know in law. You know what is jurisprudence and what is jurisdiction of a place, of a people, etc. So in that same way, this entire cosmic created universe is under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya. What she does? Taya visrijyate. By Mahamaya's powers, the creation starts. The universe is created. Visrijyate. It is being created. Vishwam. What she creates? Vishwam, this universe. Jagat. Vishwam Jagat, the universal cosmos, she has created. That includes Chara Achara. Moving and immoving, both. That means all living beings, like that, like us, animals, birds, even rivers, even mountains which do not move, achara. So Chara and Achara, everything has been created by that Mahamaya. So this is the exclusive idea of the Shaktas, those who believe in Shakti worship. And Sri Ramakrishna came to revive and to clean up this Shakti worship. Mind you, in Bengal, in Ramakrishna's time, we hear like Karta Bhajas and some sects were there, which Sri Ramakrishna has known. But the Shakti worship has gone to a degrading level. And they need to be cleaned up. And Sri Ramakrishna did a scavenger's work. Of course, he did scavenging work in one of the sweepers of the Dakshineshwar temple. That is a different thing. But then this scavenging work of cleaning up the entire process of worship, of Shakti worship, which has gone to so bad level in his time, and Sri Ramakrishna came to renew that and to clear it. So that's why today what Shakti worship we are having in India is a purified form of the Shakti worship. That purified form is wonderful. Now this, coming to this level, we can think why Sri Ramakrishna designated Mother Sarada as Saraswati. It's wonderful. You see, when Swami Abhedananji speaks of Mother Sarada, Prakritim Paramam, etc., and Lajja Patavrite Nityam Sarade Jnanadayike, he gives it so beautifully. Lajja Patavrita, she is completely covered by Lajja. Lajja is normally translated as shame. It is not exactly shame. Lajja is a very beautiful word. One day I would want to take up this particular theme of Lajja, It's such a beautiful term. And Lajja Narir Bhushanam, it is said. What is this Lajja? It is not a question of shame or anything. As in English we translate like that, literally, but not like that. It is something much more than that. So this Lajja Patavrite, she has been as if she is covered by Nityam, not only today or tomorrow only, no, or a few weeks in a month, no. Nityam, all the time, she is covered by Lajja. But then if you are completely covered by Lajja, if you are completely covered by that type of humility, will you be able to teach others? You won't be able to teach others. If you are a teacher, you must come before the public. You must speak frankly. You must be completely fearless. All these qualities are there if you are having Lajja only. So you will be inside the house, inside when you will be completely secluding yourself from the outside society. No. So Abhedananji says, Jnanadayike, in the same line. So is this not a different, say it's contradicting each other? One side you say she is Lajjavati, and on the another side you say she has come to give Jnana. Jnanam, that is knowledge. So this is such a beautiful, see, the Jnanadayike, that's the word he uses. And Sri Ramakrishna actually says that to Golapma, in two circumstances, he told Golapma, you look, Golapma, that he called Golapma and told her once. What did he say to her? He told her, you see, she is Sarada Saraswati. That is what he said. She is Sarada Saraswati. She has come to give. What she is supposed to give? She has come to give knowledge. Is she an ordinary woman? She is my Shakti. At two places he says. And then one day to Hridayaram, he says, my boy, her name is Sarada. She is Saraswati. Without blinking, he says very clearly, in clear terms. And he says, that is why she likes adornments. We think generally Mother Lakshmi wears lots of adornments, etc. No, even Saraswati also. Saraswati is conceived as a deity, as a mother deity, who is having Brahmi Hamsa Samaruda Sarvabharana Bhushita. That is the adjective given by the Shastras to Saraswati. Brahmi, she is Brahmi, that Brahma's spouse. Or Brahma Jnana giver. That's why she is called Brahmi. What she does, she gives Brahma Jnana, liberation, mukti she gives. So she is called Brahmi. And then she says that Hamsa Samaruda, she is sitting on the Hansa, that is that grand bird. And then she says Sarvalankara Bhushita. That is how Saraswati developed. So though she wears all white, yes, everything she is white. Her asan is white, her wearing garment is white, and she has got everything white. Even the Hansa is white. All the alankaras are there, not without alankaras. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, she is Saraswati. She likes to be with alankara. Of course, we don't have any photograph, Holy Mother, with all the alankaras, only with the bangles. That also, if Sri Ramakrishna had not interfered in her life, she would have removed it. But then only with the bangles we can see. But there are artists nowadays, they are making Mother Sarada's photograph with a beautiful sari and then kumkum and then etc. etc. They want to see, according to their mind, they want to see decorated Sarada, so they are doing it. Anyway, that's a different thing. So now you see that how Sri Ramakrishna specifically says to Hridayaram. It's not a simple thing. Another incident I would like to tell you, that incident is Swamiji's three boys came to Swamiji. One of them was Suren. So Suren was there and the three fellows came to Swamiji. Swamiji said, I will initiate you. So all the three are ready. So the one by one, first two boys were initiated. They left. Suren's turn comes. So Swamiji is sitting and meditating. And he says, no, I won't give you initiation. Suren feels very upset. Oh, that means what? That means I am not eligible for initiation. He thinks like that. And then he says, oh, that means what? Swamiji is not going to give me his kripa. Like that he is thinking. And then Swamiji says, see, look, Sri Ramakrishna told me that I am not your guru. So I am not going to initiate you today. Then the question naturally comes in the mind, who is my guru? If you are not going to initiate me, then who is my guru? Then Swamiji says that, someone, the master told me, Swamiji says, he has shown me that person who will initiate you, who is greater than I. So master has shown to Swamiji, this Suren is going to be initiated by somebody. That somebody has shown him. And who is greater than Swamiji. So Suren did not believe first Swamiji's words. He thought, just to put me off, Swamiji is telling. And then who can be greater than Swamiji? He did not understand that. And after some days, and Suren himself says, this is from the Suren's report only I am reading. Suren says, after this, Suren had a dream. What about a dream he had? In which he saw himself seated on the lap of Ramakrishna. See, Ramakrishna is sitting, on his lap he is sitting. And in front of him, a luminous form of a deity, a Devi, a mother, has come. So she says, take this mantra. She gives him the mantra. So he has accepted the mantra. Then Suren is asking, who are you? Because he couldn't understand who is she. What she replied, that is the stunning thing. She says, I am Saraswati. Replied that goddess. And then asked Surendra to repeat the mantra. And she disappeared. So this is a whole vision of Surendra. It may be a dream, it may be vision, whatever it could be, you can interpret. But this was sternly, very strictly, it was embedded on his mind. Some deity, I could not recognize who is she, but she herself said she is Saraswati. And then she went away. And then I stopped So he went to Swamiji one day and told Swamiji, I had such and such a dream. Nowadays dream analysis has become a big science. Everybody starts learning. Even today morning, one lady from Edinburgh told me about her wonderful dream. So people can have such wonderful dreams. And if it is personal, then you cannot tell everyone. Keep it within yourself and nourish the dream. So he is nourishing it. And when he met Swamiji, he wanted to tell Swamiji the dream. So he told. When after hearing this dream, Swamiji explained to him, a divine dream is true. Swamiji says to him clearly, it is called attaining perfection through a dream. Go on repeating this mantra. Swamiji is giving instruction. The mantra that you received in your dream, you go on repeating it. Then Surendra has got the audacity to say to Swamiji, I don't believe in dreams. Okay, what you would have said, but Swamiji reassured him. Swamiji says that whether you believe it or not, that is the secondary question. Whether you believe it or not, at least go on repeating the mantra. You got a mantra, why don't you repeat that? You may not believe the dream. It will do you good. That is what he says. And then 7 years passed away in the meantime. Swamiji has passed on. Swamiji is no more in the body. And Suren also went here and there, etc. And then his life also was moving here and there. Suddenly one day, he meets, during Durga Puja time, he meets Lal Bihari, one of his friends. So Suren and Lal Bihari go to Kamarpukur and Jairambati. They want to go. After Durga Puja, they wanted to go. Then Surendra says that I was instructed to go to Jairambati also and to meet the spouse of Sri Ramakrishna. You see, in those days, what we are saying, Holy Mother, etc., it was not like that. The devotees who have seen Sri Ramakrishna had only this idea as Guru Patni. That is the status they could give. Very few people could know. That's why Swamiji writes to Shivanandaji, my brother, you all have not understood the glory of Holy Mother. He laments over that. Why? Even the direct disciples could not understand. It is, see, that type of divinity cannot be understood unless she herself reveals to somebody. So that was the problem. You may try to understand other type of knowledge, but Paravidya cannot be understood like that. You cannot go to some people come and tell me, Swamiji, I joined a university. They have got modules of Vedanta. I have studied Vedanta, entire Vedanta. I say, accept, okay, thank you, man. You studied Vedanta. But what has gained? What you have gained from that? Except the certificate that has been given by that university. Every university has started now courses on Vedanta. Paravidya is not to be studied like that. Paravidya has to be brought inside your personality and then it has to come out in practice. That Paravidya is very difficult. So Saraswati is Paravidya, as I told you, the connection. Now he says, Surendra recalled. This I must read it in his own words so that you can be convinced. During the initiation, the mother put her right hand on my head and left hand on my chin and then imparted the mantra. When he went to Jairambati, mother said, oh Suren, you have come. Tomorrow you come with flowers. I will give you Diksha. He never asked for that. So he went. Okay, he sat there. And in the temple, the shrine, he was sitting and mother came. And this is what she did. As soon as I heard the mantra, the whole episode of my dream came back to my mind. And I saw that momentarily I felt dizzy and lost consciousness. Momentarily only. But I felt inner bliss. And he continues to say, regaining normal consciousness, I saw that the mother's form and the form of the goddess in my dream were the same. You see now, And then he says, mother says, well, my son, does it not tally? You received the right mantra. Suryan accepts, yes, ma, I received that mantra. And then he understood Swamiji's prophecy. Swamiji said, someone greater than me will initiate you, he said. How true it was. So, Mother Saraswati, we may go into Puranic concept or Devi Bhagavat concept or Chandi concept, or the latest concept of Mother Saraswati is Mother Sarada. So for me, Saraswati and Sarada are indifferentiated. They are both. When I worship Mother Saraswati, I think of Mother Sarada only. And when I think of Sarada, it is Mother Saraswati. So Mother Saraswati and Mother Saraswati, there is no difference. To give knowledge to us, there are many, many incidents in life of Holy Mother. I don't have time. Already I have taken 10 minutes more. I was supposed to speak only for 40 minutes, but I'm sorry I extended my time. But then this features of in Mother's life, you will find in how many places she has acted as a Jnana Daini. Something great thing. When you read and put every collate all these separate incidents, then you find how wonderful it is Mother's grace. And by Mother's grace only, we will get that mukti, which the Puranas speak, Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktaye. Om Kripam Kuru Mahadevi Deshu Pranateshu Charanasrayadhanina Kripam Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Amresh has told me that there are some question answers. Maybe there is that. So
yeah, I would request everybody to kindly mute the mic and only those people who would like to ask question, because now the forum is open for the question and answer session. So devotees can ask their question.
Pranam.
Kindly unmute yourself.
Pranam, I have one
I
question.
cannot hear the question.
You mentioned about Sri Sri Thakur has purified, the Shakti Puja. If you kindly elaborate a little bit on this, the purification of the Shakti Puja.
See, that means I have to go into those degrading practices to explain to you how it is. So that I don't want to do it here. There are other books are there, you can read it. Particularly Shakti, on Shakti, Swami Hiranyananji one book is there. That book also gives so many things. But I will give you one simple incident. Sri Ramakrishna went to Benares. He knew this Kartavaja sect from Bengal. So there was a Kartavaja sect in Benares. They invited him. So Sri Ramakrishna went all the, because they also worship Mother Kali, you see. So Sri Ramakrishna attended that. But within few minutes, the bhajans are done, and then the worship of Mother Kali was done. Everything was going on very smoothly. Ramakrishna was very happy. At that time, suddenly they all got up and they will change their spouses and they will have pleasure. Now, when he heard that, the very moment, Sri Ramakrishna left the place and came back. So these type of practices were there. So, and there are many more nasty things you can consider. In the modern days, we don't practice such things. Thank you.
Maharaj, could I ask you a question, please?
Please.
Yeah. You told us about Mahamaya, and you told us there is Puranic Kali, Lakshmi, and Saraswati, and as opposed to Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. So the part I understood is that the former are conceptualized from the Maha,
Mm,
the ones that you said, Saraswati and Loki,
mm.
they're the conceptualized version of Mahakali. Is that so? I didn't quite follow. Could you just expound
Yes.
on that, please?
Yeah, thank you. So this, you see, in Puranas you find suddenly all these three devatas, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Parvati, though they have got a very higher standard, they are kept in higher standard and worshipped, etc. In Purana stories, you will find all the three sometimes behave very foolishly. There are instances where Parvati has behaved foolishly. There are instances where Lakshmi has behaved foolishly, and Vishnu is correcting her. I'll give you one instance. Parvati is telling Shiva that why you are so smiling all the time in your meditation. Shiva says, well, I am seeing Ram's Leela on the ground. So I'm very happy to see that Leela. So what is the Leela going on now? Oh, you want to see? So Shiva blesses Parvati to have the eyes to see. When Parvati sees that Ram is crying and lamenting, oh my Sita, where have you gone? Where have you gone? He was crying. And then Parvati says to Vishnu, to Shiva, that is this what? You said that he is Parabrahman, but Ram is crying for his wife. Does he not know where she is? So she makes fun. So in that way, Parvati is not very intelligent woman like that, it is shown there. And likewise, Lakshmi. Lakshmi says to one day, she's asking Vishnu, you go in the sunrise time, come back at the sunset time. What do you do all the time outside? So Vishnu says, look, I am the Paripalana Devata. I have to sustain this entire world. I go and give food to everyone. Then Lakshmi says, next day she says, she takes up an ant and puts it in a small container and keeps it with her. Vishnu has gone to feed all the jivas. And when he came back in the evening, Lakshmi is asking him, Vishnu, did you feed everyone? He said, yes, everyone I fed today. Nobody is fasting today. Then she says, everyone? He said, yes. Why you are insisting everyone? Because I took away one ant from this world and put it within me. You have not fed it. Okay, open the container and see. So she opens, there is a small piece of sugar candy there. So here, Lakshmi becomes a foolish, So likewise, like the Saraswati also. Saraswati and, that idea of Pushkar, etc., the story, etc., you find how Saraswati gets angry because Brahma did that yajna and for which his wife is required. And he is asking Saraswati to come. Saraswati was busy in decorating herself. So the Purana says, so she was so busy in decorating, she made delay. And here the Murta is going on. So Brahma, what he has to do? So one tribal girl was going there. He called her and made her, for the time moment, temporarily, she was made into his wife. And then the yajna was done. And when Saraswati comes late with all full-fledged decoration, and she sees already the yajna is over, and some other lady is seated next to him as his wife, she gets angry. She goes up the mountain. So it's such type of stories where you can find this mother concept of the divine mother transcending a power is not built up in the Puranas. Why? I'm telling you, because these are stories, something we have to be understanding. When Shiva is teaching Parvati, Vishnu is teaching Lakshmi, Brahma is teaching Saraswati, means we become in that place foolish people. So what Shiva is telling to Parvati is to us. That's why the Puranas start like that. Parvati putting question, Shiva answering, like that the Puranas start like that. So we are the Jivas, we are the Parvatis. So in that level they put it. But this Maha word is attached. That Maha is something, a special meaning is attached to that. That is what I want to point out. This Maha is a power that is transcending this entire universe. A power which can transcend the universe can only create this universe, sustain this universe, and dissolve this universe. A power within the universe cannot do that. So that's why she is called Mahamaya. Is it clear?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Maharaj, I have a question.
Please.
Yeah. There are 64 yogini names in Tamil, and I also saw that it is there in Kannada and Gujarati as well.
Yes,
So, and in Odisha, there is a temple of Chaushat yoginis.
correct.
Do they correspond in any way with the types of vidyas, 64 types of vidyas?
Yes, they do correspond. Very
Okay.
good question. I told you 64 kalas are there in
Yes,
fine arts.
that's right.
If you see, as I told you, the knowledge portion was divided into 64 kinds. The 64 kinds, each kind has got an Adhishtatri Devi. Apart from Saraswati being the full-fledged, powerful Devi, but each, say for dance, who is the Adhishtatri Devata? Is Lord
Nataraj.
Shiva.
Okay, okay.
So likewise, in each is the music, the kinnaras are there, Gandharvas are there. Like that, each one has been given. So these are all, see, in mother form, if you can imagine, it is very easy to approach. A mother can be easily approached than the father. So particularly in the yogic and tantric tradition, the yoga and tantra are not separately developed. They are two streams from the same source. So yoga and tantra are always united. In somewhere or other, they come and meet together, either in philosophy or in rituals or in practice. That's why yoga is considered as the applied science of tantra. So these two are united. So the 64 kalas, each kala has got an Adhishtatri, a independent Devata, and Devata is conceived as a yogini. That's all.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just one more question. This is slightly unrelated. However, is this a coincidence that the number 64 is also very significant in the history of digital science? 64, 128, 256, 512, MBS, MBPS. These were the milestones in information science as well as in artificial intelligence. There might be something, metaphysically related.
Yes, it may be, but I am not a mathematician. I couldn't go into that.
There might be something, yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
Meditation might
Thank
be.
you.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Maharaj,
You
may
have
I
provoked the
ask?
thought.
Pranam Maharaj.
You have
Pranam
provoked the thought.
Maharaj. Oh, sorry.
May I
Maharaj,
ask
I
now?
wanted to ask you,
Who is speaking?
you said Saraswati Ma is all in white, and there are all these alankars which she has, the Abhushanam. Is that a symbol of anything, or is it just Abhushan? Is it a symbol of some alankar or some knowledge or anything, or is it
No,
just
yes,
plain
that's a very
Abhushan?
good question.
That's what I
I'm very
wanted to
happy
know.
that you put this question. We think simply alankar means decoration. That English word decoration is not exactly denoting the meaning of the word alankaram in Sanskrit. You see, alankrita, alankara is alankara. So what is that alam? You know that alam word in Sanskrit? Even in Hindi also we used. Are alam. Alam ho gaya. So alam means what? It is that enough. That is that. So in each part of our body, according to yogic shastras and tantric shastras also, in tantra when you do puja, even the Vedic puja doesn't have anganyas, karanyas. You must have heard about these two nyasas, anganyas, karanyas. Vedic puja doesn't have. But tantric puja has got. So in Ramakrishna Mission, we mix Vedic and tantric together. So in our puja system, we have anganyas and karanyas. Anganyas and karanyas say it's a purification of the 51 matras of the alphabets of the language. Each matra of the alphabet denotes one part of our body. So we have got 51. The whole body has been structured and divided into 51 parts. That's why the Purana says when Sati was killed by the chakra of Vishnu, 51 parts it became and fell at different places, that each place became Shakti Pita. These are all peculiar to the Shakta worship method, I'm telling. Nothing to be confused with the Vaishnava, etc. In Shakta worship, it has got its own tradition. So the 51 parts of the body are denoting one letter. in the alphabet, and that 50 on each part has to be deified. Each part, say my neck. Neck is one part. This part has to be deified. How? You put alam krita. This it should be deified. That means this particular portion I am now signifying with gold, an ornament of necklace. Likewise ears, likewise nose, likewise your krita on head, likewise hands, feet. Even in the feet, the toes have got a particular mention is there. So this alankara of the human body is not for an enjoyment of seeing that human body beautifully decorated. That is a very, very gross conception. The deeper conception, spiritual conception is that each part of the body where that ornament comes and glorifies that particular part of the body is actually a worship of that devata belonging to that part of the body. That's why this alankara has got special. In southern temples, South Indian temples, you'll find alankaram is a Vishesha puja. Puja is not much. It's Vedic puja, they do Vedic puja. The Brahmins, they do Vedic puja. It's all done, finished. Within 10 minutes, they will finish the puja. But then the alankara that takes after the puja is enormous. It goes into so minute, whether Tirupati or Vishalakshi or Kamachi or Meenakshi, anywhere you go, the alankara of the deity is something tremendous. That is the spiritual meaning of it.
Maharaj, may I ask you, maybe this is a little inconsequential, but
Thank you, Bharat.
Who is speaking? Your photo is not coming. The speaker's photo is not coming.
This is Gargi. Maharaj, somewhere I have heard that Shiv without Shakti turns into Shab. So is it some way related, or is it something true?
Yes. See, what does it mean, It means Brahman, without the manifestation of its power, has got nothing to do, because it remains as it was. And it will remain in the future also as it is. Only when the powers are manifested, which is called Shakti, the whole creation itself comes. Suppose the whole entire universe is dissolved today. What remains? Only Brahman will remain. In that meaning only it is said. And also in Sanskrit, Shiva and Shava, they both are same alphabets. Only Sha is put called Ikar is there in Shiva, and in Shava that Ikar is not there. So that's why they make this pun, that Shiva is alone, and that Ikar is taken, Shakti is taken. Shakti means Ikara. So Shakti is taken, and Ikara signifies Striling in Sanskrit. So if you take in Shakti, the Shiva becomes useless. That's how they put it.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Namaskar, Vanakkam, Swamiji.
Oh, Vanakkam, yaar pesrige?
Sethu Ramanathan. Namaskaram. I like the concept that you put that the concept of Shakti was always there in the Vedanta and in the Upanishads. Whereas in the South, sometimes we tend to hear that Shakti was a local concept, which was already there in the old culture in India. And when the Vedas came, it was imbibed. So let's say we have the Mariamman temples and things like that, which was even if you go into tribal culture, everything, Shakti is very, very. So, but from what you say today, I think it is clarified that actually it has always been there as the Mahamaya or the Shakti freedoms, basically.
Yes. Correct, Setu. This one point I would just underline in your remarks. It is not a question, it is a remark, but then I would like to underline one point here is, you see, when Mahamaya takes 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, certain form of tamasic practices also must come into being. And that is what you find in the Mariamman temples, etc. There, the tamasic gunas are very prominent, where you give bali. You give bali, and then kill the animals and offer it. These are all called tamasic practices within tantras. So the tantra, once upon a time, when Vedanta was not at a high level, the tantras were there actually. And then came up the other ideas, in evolution. The ideas of evolution, you find higher ideas were coming, and then the tantra also got purified, as I said. Recently, Sri Ramakrishna purified. Likewise, earlier time also there were rishis who have been purifying these tantric practices. So they said, if you want to eat only flesh, don't eat straight away. Offer it to mother, make it prasad and eat. I have seen in Bengal, some people would not touch flesh unless it is offered to Mother Kali and comes out as a Mahaprasad. They would not otherwise touch. I have seen such people also. So everything has been purified slowly in a way. So there were tamasic aspects of worship must be there, rajasic aspect of worship must be there, and sattvic type of worship also must be there.
Thank you.
So may I ask one more question, Maharaj, please? If Brahman alone is real and Mahamaya is the Shakti which is encompassing the whole universe, why is she stopping us from realizing Brahman? Why is the Shakti stopping us from attaining Brahman?
Okay. Do you know about these modern days drones? Have you heard about these drones? Drone cameras? Drone cameras have got remote. You keep in your remote in your hand.
Yes.
And you can make it run left side, right side, go again, or dash with the wall, or come and then bring it back to your ground. You can operate everything by a remote in your hand. Mahamaya has got perfect freedom. Can you question that? She is the producer of this universe and all the beings. So if she wants to make you run, what is the problem with you? You have to run. And if she wants to liberate you, she will liberate you. And Sri Ramakrishna says, like the kites flying, one or two kites only get cut. Even Ram Prasad says in Bengali song, it's a very beautiful song. Ram Prasad says that one or two kites only cut and they are freed. And then you keep clapping. See, that kite is now freed. So likewise, it is her wish. See, that is the only answer you can give in the theistic philosophy. That's why you have to go to a higher philosophy of Vedanta. Only there you can understand why this, I am bound by this ignorance, why I am not getting liberation. This cannot be explained in theistic philosophy. Theistic philosophy will have a limitation. The limitation is such, God has created you, He has kept you in ignorance, you remain in ignorance till He keeps you. And if He wants to take you out, He will take you out. It is His will, let thy will be done. That is how a bhakta has to understand that. But if you take a jnana marga,
Yes,
if you take a jnana marga, then you don't recognize this type of creation, etc. So no Mahamaya. The whole thing is Maya. Even Mahamaya creation is Maya, it says. So that is a different philosophy. Okay. Need not be a form of question. You can give some remark or observation or something you want to share. You are free to do. I am free another 10 minutes.